Now, today is World Hunger Day, and aid groups are warning tonight that Somalia could be on the brink of a crisis. Let's go live now to Nairobi. Anne-Marie Schreier-Roy, who represents African Development Solutions, is standing by to talk to us. Anne-Marie, good evening to you and welcome. We're reading tonight that 50,000 Somali children under the age of 5 are suffering from acute malnutrition. Is this a new humanitarian crisis or simply a continuation of one that exists?
The situation in Somalia is a protracted humanitarian crisis. So it's been going on for some time, but what we've been seeing now in recent months is a degradation of the indicators. We're looking at about 860,000 people that need immediate emergency assistance, and another about 2 million people that have a hard time meeting their basic needs. As you mentioned, there's about 50,000 children that are literally at death's door, and another 150,000 children that suffer from severe malnutrition. So what we're seeing on the ground is quite dramatic, and it's reminiscent of what we were seeing in 2010, 2011, leading up to the famine.
And the major cause behind this is emergency funding, which appears to have dried up. Why is that the case?
Yes, you're right. Emergency funding in Somalia is quite low. The humanitarian appeal for Somalia this year is only about 17% funded. So we're looking at about 160 million committed out of 950 million that was requested. When we're dealing with a crisis like the one in Somalia that has been going on for quite a number of years, we tend to meet some donor fatigue, and after a certain amount of time, the funding dwindles. The other sad reality in Somalia is that these statistics are better than they were 2 years ago. So a lot of people have become a bit complacent. And what we're sounding the alarm about is that by no means can we accept the fact that 50,000 children are at death's door as an improvement on a prior situation. Whether it was worse before or not, this is dramatic, and we need to act now before it's too late.
What are your projections if the money is not forthcoming?
It's difficult to have concrete projections in terms of numbers, but we definitely see a deterioration of the situation that could lead to a catastrophe. The rains have been slow in coming. There's been disruption in agricultural production. So people are having a hard time feeding themselves, and because the rains have been low, there's less water for households as well as for livestock.
And there's also a security dynamic attached to this. I understand there's a tense security situation in the country right now. Some Western nations are tonight saying that the country itself could sink back into chaos and then provide a launch pad for armed groups if the situation is not resolved.
There is ongoing conflict in the country, and that also complicates our humanitarian interventions. Aid agencies are having a harder time reaching some of the people that are most in need because armed groups are creating blockades to the supply routes, which make it more difficult for us to access those areas.
Thank you very much for joining us live in Nairobi for Newsnight. Anne-Marie Schreier-Roy, spokesperson for the NGO African Development Solutions.
Know more about your world.
ENCA.com